Welcome to another episode of Facts Not Included's Tangent Fridays. I'm your host, Peter Cabranes, and yes, I know, yet another episode, just me. I apologize to those that are listening for the sheer fact that they're going to get to listen to Mike and Antonio, but I apologize. It's just me today. We were supposed to have Mike on, but things happened. Mike has a job, I have a job, Antonio has a job. So we're all very busy sometimes, and it's hard to get people together, but the fact that I have the equipment, it's much easier for me to get behind the mic and just turn it on. And I did want to have this episode out for you guys, so I apologize in advance. But today's episode is going to be all about the life, the legacy, the good, the bad, I guess, of Michael Jackson, someone that has meant so much to me personally. And I know he's meant a lot to Mike and Antonio through music and stuff, but Michael Jackson meant a lot to me more than just music. And we'll get to that right after our little theme song. Not Included's episode of Michael Jackson. You know, it's been 10 years since Michael Jackson passed away on June 25th, 2009, and it was shocking to all of us, I think. Maybe not so much to the people that were with him 24/7, though they might say that on the news and stuff. I don't think it was completely shocking to those that were very close to him. It's hard to not see that he was using drugs, especially with hindsight now. You could see that he was medicating, and he's been medicating for he had been medicating for years. It was sad. It was disappointing, knowing that he was about to go on a tour. Well, not a tour, sorry, a 50-show residency at the O2 Arena in London. That was going to be epic. No one had ever done that before, to that capacity. Michael Jackson, I'm pretty sure you've seen the film This Is It, which is basically it's a chronological story in regards to the setup of how they were going to do the concert. And I think if we got to see that, I think it would have gone in the history books as the greatest concert performance in the history of concerts. It blew my mind what he was trying to accomplish. Things that he hasn't done for decades, and things that were just revolutionized in the development of that concert series. And so I think it would have been extraordinary. It really would have been extraordinary. Would he have been able to pull it off? Well, it seems like probably not. Due to his health at the time, he was not doing well at all. I remember during the trial of the doctor that took care of him. Remember during the trial they played some very eerie and dark and again depressing to hear audio of Michael Jackson talking to his doctor while he's completely drugged up, and it is the saddest state I think I've ever seen or heard Michael Jackson in. And he just sounds like a drug addict. Let's be honest. And that's what he kind of was at the end of his life. It's extraordinary to know that someone like that, someone that prolific, behind closed doors was abusing drugs the way that he was. Can't say I'm surprised. Most artists tend to cope that way. They say that his drug use, according to a lot of people in his circle, started when he, that whole Pepsi thing, and I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, that whole Pepsi thing. The commercial where his head caught on fire, and he wound up wearing it dug into his skull, close to his skull. The skin was gone, and he had to He had to get stitches. He had to wear a wig for a bit. And I think they said, I don't want to be bleak and dark here, but like they said in his autopsy, he even had tattoos and wig on around his head because he just didn't have hair anymore. It's fascinating. That stuff's fascinating. But I don't want to dwell on that stuff, or at least talk about that right now. What I want to get into is what he meant to all of us, and then I'm going to talk about what he meant to me. Because Michael Jackson was an icon, the king of pop. You know, he was the biggest star for a very long time, and even retired, and now even dead. He's still one of the most revered musical artists in the world. Now, granted, this year he's had some backlash again due to some people speaking up about his alleged child abuse, and we'll get into that later. But let's just be honest. He touched the world, you know. I'm talking about music-wise. He had a profound impact on every individual, I think, on the planet. Not too many people can say they did that. Not too many people can say they did that. I think if you walk down the street, probably in any country, and you start playing his music, you're bound to have a group of people start dancing. You're bound to have a group of people start shouting the lyrics to that song. That's the type of impact he has had on this planet. I swear, go somewhere in Africa, go to somewhere, any country, any continent, do it. You're bound to have someone dance. Even if they don't know who he is, you can't help but dance to that man's music. You can't help it. It's fascinating what his music does to your inner soul, to your inner body. It's glorious. In all honesty, it really is. It's fascinating. So I was introduced, and I think I'm going to have an article come out on factsnotincluded.com, our website about this. My introduction to music and the people that touched my life through music, because music is very important in my family. I have a couple of members of my family who were professional musicians or were at some point. And some that tried to become musicians. I trained to be a singer for a long time. I've played the trumpet in my life. I used to play guitar, but I was not the best at it. But anyway, music's very, very important to my family. Well, mainly my mom's side. But anyway, music's huge. And so, being introduced to the legends, the icons, at such a young age in both American music and Spanish music as a young kid was all you could ever ask for. And of course, one of those people on that list is Michael Jackson, obviously. You don't talk about American music without Michael Jackson. And so getting to learn about him was fascinating, getting to understand that wasn't a woman singing, because that was my first inclination as a child. I think the first time I heard some Jackson 5 stuff, I was like, who's that? What's her name? and I think so even with some of his adult songs, like when he sang as an adult. It's till this day I find very funny. But anyway, Michael meant a lot to me. He was my go-to for years. I think it was, I want to say, around the time he announced the tour. Right? And then I want to say 2 years after he passed away. So for a good 2 to 3 years. That's all I listened to on my personal time. It was his music. I didn't want to listen to any other new stuff. I didn't want to listen to anything else. No one's music could top Michael Jackson during that time period for me, because I guess I was going through a lot of he's the only person that I knew everything about. You know that now a lot of people follow the Kardashians or Kylie Jenner, whatever, and they know the ins and outs about that family. They know the ins and outs about everything about that individual, whatnot. That's how I was with MJ. It was weird. I don't know why I became that way. But growing up, from the age of 5 and on, I wanted to know everything about him. I wanted to know about the unreleased music. I wanted to know about the music that was coming out very soon, which it turns out it never really happened. I wanted to learn about everything that he had ever done. I watched all the documentaries about him. I watched all the good stuff, the bad stuff, the negative stuff, the positive stuff. I wanted to know a lot about Michael Jackson. I know it's unhealthy and it's weird, but I will admit that I did that with him. And so that's why when he announced the tour, I was like, I need to go to London. Clearly, I couldn't afford it, so that ended really quickly. But I kept following. And this was 2008, 2009. I think he announced I think he announced the concert the year of, so 2009. This is a time Google still, it's getting there. Google's nowhere where it is today, but Google was still young. So it was hard to use Google as, Google News, like their section of news. It was a little different than it is now. So it was a little harder to get news through there. So you still had to get news through other sources, obviously, as you should. You always should. But now easier. You type in something on Google News, and it's going to aggregate a bunch of stuff for you. But anyway, and you had to dig deeply, into the internet to find out some news about the This Is It tour. It was fun doing all that stuff. But anyway, I wanted to know when the concert started. I wanted to know what the tickets looked like. I wanted to know everything. And then the day happened. June 25th, 2009. I remember it's one of those moments where you remember exactly where you were. I'm not equating it to any natural disaster. I'm not equating it to any, attack on this nation by any stretch of the imagination. But those are the type of things those are the days that you remember where you were. So for me, this was the same thing. And many people that I ask, they say the same thing as well. They remember where they were. It is like the death of Elvis. People remember where they were when they found out the news that Elvis Presley died. And for me, it was a very eerie day. Like, I don't necessarily understand why, but, it was weird because it was our 8th grade senior trip. We were at Six Flags. And if any of my fellow 8th graders at the time are listening to this, what's up, guys? Let's start hanging out again. I miss some of you. But anyway, we were 8th grade trip, and I was hanging out with these guys, and we were going on coasters and stuff, obviously, as you do at Six Flags. And I kept, doing, the Michael Jackson, sound effects that he goes, hee hee, and stuff like that. And Jamona, and all that nonsense. And I would talk like him. But I didn't know why I was doing that, because I did do that usually sometimes, but not to the extent I was doing it. And so the weirdest thing happened, as of course, on my way, prior to doing all that, on the way to the amusement park, to Six Flags, I was listening to his music. And so on the way back, I was still listening to his music. And I'm sitting by myself on the bus, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and they're like, yo, so-and-so's trying to get your attention. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And they're all the way in the front of the bus. And they just shout out, hey, Pete, Michael Jackson died. And I'm thinking, no, they're screwing with me. They're messing with me. There's no, what? Dead? Michael Jackson died? What? And everybody who had a phone that had access to the internet, which I didn't at the time, they were like, yeah, no, he did. He did die. The news is saying that he did die. And I just sat there. I sat there in my seat, put his music to a pretty high volume, not to the point where it would make people next to me uncomfortable, but a high enough volume for myself. And I just sat there the rest of the ride home. I don't even remember the rest of the ride home, to be honest. I know I either fell asleep or I was sulking in in my emotions. And so we get to the school, and a friend of mine, his dad, was nice enough to drive me home. And on the radio, he's listening to a Spanish radio station. On the radio, they're talking about how the legacy he left, and they're blasting his music, man, on a Spanish radio station. You're playing Michael Jackson music on a Spanish radio station. That right there just tells you the impact that this man's music had on the industry. You know, so many musicians, regardless of the language they speak, were influenced by him, directly or indirectly, I guess. But yeah, that was a hard moment for me that whole day. And then I get home. It was weird. And then I get home and I turn on the news, and my mom, actually I don't. My mom's already watching CNN. Anderson Cooper and Larry King. Everybody's talking about the death of Michael Jackson. And CNN, as we know now, notoriously did all Michael Jackson coverage till like November. They milked that shit. But yeah, it was tough. It was tough for especially the first couple of days. I then started watching MTV, which is funny because I think it's the last time MTV played like music videos was when Michael Jackson died, because that's all they did. MTV, VH1, BET. It was Fuse. I don't know if Fuse is still around, but they were doing it. It was extraordinary. It was weird because you're feeling emotional because you're like, you know, an idol, an icon, someone who meant the world to me and to others has just died. But you're sitting down watching his music, and you're elated. You're happy. You're content with the fact that he did this for everyone. He made this music for everybody, and it was great. It was a great feeling and a terrible feeling at the same time. So anyway, as you know, Michael Jackson died on June 25th, and then they moved on. I think it was July, the first week or two of July, they realized, let's do, or was it later? I don't know, because there was a whole thing with his body and the autopsy report and all this stuff. They decided, let's do a memorial service at the Staples Center, in Los Angeles. And they announced all the stars that were going to be there. A crazy amount of musicians and people that are just public figures were going to be there and talk and sing and whatnot. And that day for me was like insane. I've never cried as much as I did watching that ceremony, watching that service. Nothing has made me cry like that before. It was water. I could not see the screen the TV screen I was looking at, because I was just pouring my eyes out. And I know that's strange to say, because again, I never knew this guy, and in some cases, a lot of people think he's a monster, and maybe he was. Again, I never met him, but that's the thing. Like, he impacted our lives so much, or at least my life so much, that it felt like I did know the guy. And that's the weird part about celebrity and being famous and stuff like that. So it was a strange memorial service for me. But anyway, that happened. And so the world for me has been different, because I always keep wondering, what would the music scene be like if he was still alive? You know what I mean? Would we be getting Michael Jackson and Drake songs? Would we be? Because I know Michael Jackson worked with Kanye back in the day. He did a song with Kanye, and will.i.am and stuff. You know, the Black Eyed Peas. Like, so he was still, he would collaborate with the modern artists. And as you know, what the music we've gotten post death, he did a song. They had Justin Timberlake sing with him. Granted, they never sang together, but they had a song with them together. 50 Cent and stuff like that. So it's not. It wouldn't have been unheard of if you heard Michael Jackson on a song with any of these new guys, you know? What would it have been like, you know? Who knows? and that's the stuff I think about all the time. It's like 10 years later, he would have been, what, 60 something now. A world with a 60-year-old Michael Jackson and possibly still performing. Or maybe we would have lost him regardless because of the drug use. Who knows? Who really knows? But, yeah, he shouldn't have been using those drugs that he was using at his house. Obviously, we all know that. It's a drug that you use, that they give you when you go to sleep at a surgery. They call it Michael Jackson milk, Michael Jackson milk, or Michael's milk, because it looks white and milky. That's the joke nurses use. I think they used that on me on my nose surgery. I don't remember. I never asked. Didn't care to ask. But yeah, anyway, so let's go into Michael Jackson's legacy here, because I know I've been rambling about his death and shit like that. Michael Jackson started singing at the age, professionally I guess, I think it was around the age of 4 or 5 years old. And they had to lie. They said he was 8, but I think he was more along the lines of 5. Or maybe he would have been a little bit older. But imagine that, singing professionally at that young age until your death at 50-something years old. And think about this. The impact he made as a young singer. Michael could have probably stopped singing if he didn't care about music. Probably at the age of 16. And he would have been set for life, probably. I don't know how the money worked. Probably not. But my point is that music during that age is still being played today on the radio. Still being played today on Spotify and Apple Music. People are still in tune with his music from when he was a child. That's how good the music was. And well, is. And so, he could have easily stopped if he wanted to. But Michael had a love for entertainment. He had a love for music. And so he was an avid singer. I don't know if you've seen documentaries or read anything about him or heard him talk about how he hears music in his head. And the way he explains it is he hears everything. He hears the drums. He hears the bass, the guitar, the vocals, everything. Most musicians can't do that at all. And Michael Jackson even writes the music for that. So there's no mistaking the raw, pure talent that Michael Jackson had, and the artists of today only wish that they could be 5% of that. Just being honest there. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's great music out there. There's talented people, but any artist out there will even tell you that Michael Jackson was something special. He's a product of his environment. His dad treated him terribly, but he was a workhorse. Michael Jackson was a workhorse that I don't know if you'll ever see that pain again. Like, that's the other thing is, and I don't want to see that again. But I don't think you'll ever see that pain from an artist again that Michael Jackson had. It's extraordinary. So he's the best. I mean, for me, as I said before, he's someone that I've always looked up to. So not just his music, he was a philanthropist. He gave a lot of money away. He gave a lot of money to people that were in need. He was always helping out children. He was always helping out the community in ways that most people probably in his situation would not have done that. And that leads to the dark stuff, the dark side. Yes, as a fan of someone who's been accused of doing terrible things to young children, and especially as someone like myself who works with young children, you don't want to hear that. Obviously, you don't condone any of that behavior. Like to be a believer that it never happened or he wasn't that way. But hey, I don't know. You're never going to know. I would like to think, in a perfect world, that he just, legit hanging out with kids. Again, I don't think if I was in those shoes as a parent, I would not have allowed it. But those parents did. But I don't think he did anything wrong with them. He probably just legit just hung out with them. But maybe he didn't just hang out with them. Maybe he did terrible, terrible things to them. And we're never going to know unless he was alive and they somehow got it out of him. But as of now, he was acquitted once. They said he did not do anything wrong. The first time he paid money to a family, but as we found out later in history, that family was doing it for the money. But he still paid family hush money. It's a weird situation. It's a disgusting situation, if true. I mean, this year the documentary came out that for some reason people were surprised, and at the same time people were, I guess, reassured that he was a demon or a sick person. Again, I like to think that he did not do any of those things. But that also leads me to believing that those two gentlemen are liars, and I don't like thinking that of people. So it's a strange situation for everyone involved. I'm clearly not involved in the situation, and that's the problem with fans. And I think we've talked about this in the podcast throughout its existence. Is what level are fans involved in the lives of celebrity? And to an extent they are, because without fans, you're not a celebrity. Plain and simple. But do fans need to know everything about your life, or do fans need to have a say in your life? Probably not. But when you're accused of molesting children, it is a dark and disgusting accusation. It's a dark and disgusting act, if true. It's strange that we've never gotten the truth, or maybe we have gotten the truth. We don't know. One side's clearly telling the truth, and again, if true, the question is, do you still listen to his music? Do you still listen to his it's tough. It's an interesting thing, and I think we talked about that in a episode in the past. Like with Bill Cosby, people don't want to watch the Cosby Show. They don't want to watch his stand-up. But is that something you do? Doesn't the work speak for itself, and is that a separate thing? I don't know. Kevin Spacey, do you still watch his movies? Do you still are you still entertained by the gentleman? I don't know. It's tough for me because there are days where I'll listen or watch or whatever, and days where I don't. Or do you listen and watch attentively now? Do you read into things more? Do you find certain lyrics to be a bit off-putting, knowing that he possibly did things to little boys? How do you take that? It's strange, and it's complicated, and it's something that I think each individual needs to figure out on their own. I think it's something that, as a society, we need to have a discussion about that stuff. But I think it's an individual's choice, I guess, whatever, to do that. But yeah, let's be honest. Michael Jackson, he touched the hearts of, I'm going to say, billions of people. He touched the hearts of billions of individuals. Not too many people get to say that. His music is that, and that's where it comes to, do you still listen to his music? I think you have no choice, in a sense. I think you have no choice. His music it is beyond him. It is beyond the individual. His music is universal. it's galactic in a sense, you know. Um, yeah, he's that's what he's about. I remember 2003 when he did his 30th anniversary concert, and so many big names from the early 2000s performed on stage for Michael, and it blew my mind that all these people were touched by the great musician Michael Jackson, and then he performed, and the first time I ever got to see him perform on TV or you know, really anywhere, live in a sense. Granted, it was taped, but due to 9/11, they had no choice. It was so in the event you don't in the case you don't know about this, they shot it. I want to say it was September 9th and September 10th or 8th and 10th, whatever it was, of September in 2001. Just the day before the events of September 11th, and there's that famous story. I don't know if it's true or not, that Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Taylor, and I forget who the other individual was. I think it was Marlon Brando. I don't know. They hitched. They drove all the way from New York to California because they couldn't find a flight. Because all flights were grounded for like, what was it, like a week or something, or days, a couple of days in New York, or even in the whole country. I don't remember, because I was too young to, and I haven't looked it up. That's why we're facts not included. But yeah, there's that story. I don't know if it's true or not. Part of me hopes it is true. I don't know. Anyway, so that concert, it had a lasting impression on me. So much so that I tried recreating that concert with a couple of friends back in high school, but that was clearly never going to happen. I'm not that talented, I don't think. But yeah, Michael, if you're listening to this episode and you're wondering, why is he talking so soft? Why is he talking so slowly? It's because when I think about him, it keeps me relaxed. I don't know, it's weird. I miss him. I miss his music. A lot of people say he was a strange man, and yeah, but wouldn't you be too? If given the circumstances of having a terrible childhood, terrible upbringing, in the sense of being beaten, made fun of, ridiculed by your own parents, and your own family, being forced to do things you didn't want to do as a kid, and then growing up in the spotlight and never really being able to grow up in a sense. Not having the proper education, not having the proper guidance, and so you're forever a kid, in a sense. And I'm not defending his possible actions as an adult. I'm not saying that, he did that to other kids because he was like that. Not at all. If those things are true, you can't defend that either. But I'm just saying, like, how do you live a life, a perfect life, or a good life, or whatever life, given the circumstances you're given, like he was? Money's gonna get to you at some point. No one saw that type of money back then. Most people don't even see that money now. But he was the first mega superstar. The Beatles never saw that money. Beatles never saw money like that. The Rolling Stones never did. Bob Dylan never saw money like that. Michael had a massive contract with Pepsi. Pepsi, okay? They were paying him money. Sony was paying him money. Okay? Sony's still paying that family money. So, when people say, oh, well, no one ever had money like that. The only people that get paid like that now are athletes. Okay? Athletes are really the ones that get paid like that now. Musicians still have to scrape their ass to get paid. Not all, but, some. But anyway, no one had money that he was seeing in the 80s. Nobody. So, he didn't know. He didn't have any, well, so-and-so did this with it, so I'm going to do that too. He bought everything he could see. It was more money than you could ask for in one lifetime. And he got rid of it all. Obviously, he used all his money because he went bankrupt. Probably a few times. Who knows? That's probably why he was doing the tour. He had no money. So, but what a legacy, man. And he's he's in a sense like Donald Trump, and I don't want to get political here, but in the sense where when you bring him up, the conversation's going one of two ways, positive or negative. You're either gonna talk about his music or that he liked little boys. You know, Donald Trump's the same way in the sense of it's either gonna be a very positive discussion about the man, or it's gonna go far down the rabbit hole. It's strange. It's polarizing. Michael Jackson is polarizing to some people, and I guess it's just well deserving. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, this has been my little yeah, rage. I don't know what I'm saying. My rambling. There we go. God, forgive me. But this is my little rambling of Michael Jackson, a man who meant so much to so many people. 10 years, man. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, that's it. This has been our Facts Not Included episode about Michael Jackson 10 years later. I really wanted Mike and Antonio to be on. I hope we can talk about it next week. I just wanted my side of it. My what he meant, because he meant so much, man. That's another reason why I wanted to do it alone. That's why I did a George Carlin episode, if you guys want to check that one out. But yeah, make sure you head over to factsnotincluded.com for all the latest Facts Not Included news in regards to what we're doing, articles. Check out the forum page, factsnotincluded.com/forum, where you can create your own little discussions and conversations or join in one that's already been made. Enjoy yourself there. I hope you guys do. I've been Peter for Facts Not Included. I'll see you guys next time.